So I had this whole secret plan that I was going to have everybody in here put their queer ears on, but I'm pretty sure that everybody in this room is queer, so I don't need to ask for that. So anyways, this poem is called Fun with Gender Neutral Pronouns, or Some Things to Know About Jesus. 1. Z's manger was draped in red silk with a bowl of cloves burning on either side. And when Mary picked here up for the first time, she smiled at the contrast of old razor-scarred arms and her new baby boy, with an I, by the way. Mary thought about Joseph, and how he wouldn't pay child support, and how her hormones needed to be refilled, and how the scars from her top surgery ached, and how the baby glowed like some radiating force field of foreshadowed tragedy. She named Z Elvis because Z would be the king of man. And when Z started walking, Z would trip over here lacy dresses trying to reach G.I. Joe out of the toy box. Mary thought about the moment 9 months ago when 2 white angels laid her on the surgery table and saw Petri dish baby mixed and ready to be inserted. Mary thought about God and how he must have felt the moment he dipped his hand into the jar of fluidity, and she cried the last tears before parenthood and hoped that the surgery wouldn't be botched like some back alleyway, and she knew in that moment that virgin means nothing when it comes to babies. 2. Most of the time, I don't even know what you're saying. 3. On the 25th day during the rise of Capricorn, the sun took its first breath against the chest of an archangel. And in the shallowness of some dirt path off a side road in Nazareth was a burning bowl of the finest smells of consecrated incense. 4. I didn't make the incense myself. Shaman David took 36 hours to mix, measure, and pour the incense he blessed with holy water and prayers into tiny mason jars that he labeled in gold ink. Across the top, it said Vashti. And I brought this incense to the side of the manger because Vashti was the original feminist. And if this tiny baby was going to amount to anything, then Z would be radical politics. 5. And maybe he wasn't born at all. Maybe that night it was the moon that was born and then broke off a piece of herself that grew into the sun. And maybe there was no manger except to hold food for the mules, and no carpenter that walked across water, and no water turning into blood, and no blind man taking visual interest in the architecture of Jerusalem. But there was still Archangel Michael. And he still transitioned into a woman, but the artificial insemination didn't take to her lack of biological ovaries, and sometimes I think that I'm just praying to an oil painting with no soul, and wandering eyes, and hella halos in different shades of gold, and I'm lucky that at 12:02 every night the moon shines through my 3rd-story window, and I can pray to her crater face, and cleanse when her body is full, and that is what I call religion. Okay, I'm just gonna do one more. This is called Glazed Coral. My father said that the reason for living was getting ready to stay dead. And William Faulkner said some things boring as a motherfucker straight out of a text where we all lay dying. And I've seen a garden where an urn of glazed coral holds the crushed bones of a 19-year-old boy I never knew. You said that when you found him, his fingertips were black like the noose bruise around his neck. And the pictures pouring out his pockets had visions of the crossed-out faces of all the people who never spent the time to know him. You said that you left his body hanging from the cedar rafters until his family came back from England. And the house stayed cold enough to preserve his body. Stayed cold enough to keep ghosts wandering around the floorboards, shoving suicide notes down their throats, and you said his hands. And you said his hands. And the way you moved your hands was me reading an obituary of every heart I've ever seen, pumping through thin skin, progressing away to give in. And I was just a child, in his stillborn costume, kneeling on the carpet, examining my bit wounds, penciling cursive quotes onto the wall about trying to resurrect friendships out of fault lines, but too scared to feel the heat of my own body, and there is a gangland of violence under this skin, where a 6.7 earthquake shook the foundation of my childhood and ruptured into pulling up daisies from bedroom carpet. Shaking hands with rat poison, pedal pushing the canyon, writing the word hate on the crown molding inside of my closet, and I should have known then. But in retrospect, no bright-eyed sing-songs can channel a pigeon to keep its wings out of hell, and I'm sorry about the phone call and waking you. I guess it's just like breathing but not wanting to, some decisions you don't make. Some choices can't even be fake. Sometimes money is all you need for 2 feet of rope and a kick in the gut. I don't care if you deny it. We are all so obsessed with death as we lay dying. I saw a man cross the street in North Beach, dressed in mourning, carrying white calla lilies balancing on ravens' feet, trying to persuade the vultures to save face, so he could cast a death mask out of post-mortem reflection, and a suicide is not worth more than bus fare in this city. And I've swung each of my own corpses out of apartment windows just to watch my body crumble, but I've never seen a body die. But I know when I do, his fingers will look like ostrich feathers curling against a gust from the Santa Anas. And enough holy water and oil will spill down these stone steps where you told me about a memory of a lifeless teenager that had exhausted his connection with the earth, so he tied a noose around the birth of his death and dug enough chalk outlines into his skin deep enough to say that the reason for living is getting ready to stay dead, getting ready to plant calla lilies and get back in the water. Thanks.